Okay, guys, welcome to Medieval Total War, where I've got some big news. This is some big news. Now, I don't know exactly where to put this. I think I'm going to put this with my Inheritance campaign playlist, because for the first time ever, in my 23 years of playing Medieval Total War since release, I have just unequivocally inherited land. Not one province, not two provinces, not three provinces, but four, five, six, one, two, three, four, I think six provinces I've inherited by marriage for the first time ever. This just happened. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you the campaign that I'm in. I'm going to give a little backstory to it, and maybe we'll even go back a few years to an earlier save so I can show you what happened in some more detail. This is a side campaign I've been playing just for myself. This is not part of any larger playlist. It's Viking Invasion. It's the Scots. I've been playing as the Scots, and it's on expert difficulty, and the year is currently 856 AD. Those of you who have been following the channel recently know that I'm concurrently playing as a Let's Play a Spanish campaign where the goal is specifically to explore this inheritance mechanic. But just for fun, I decided, I kind of want to play on the Viking map just for me, and I'll just do a little fun campaign as the Scots and see how it goes. And as I was playing around, I thought, you know what? I can get assassins pretty quickly in this campaign, because there are very few restrictions in terms of building these buildings. It's a lot faster to get up to your +3 assassin buildings in Viking Invasion. I don't know exactly why that is. I guess there's fewer buildings, shorter building tree. You can get to these buildings just a lot quicker. So I got up to rank 3 assassins right out of the gate out of Dalriada, which is my capital, pretty quickly. And so I tried inheriting a few other factions by marrying and assassinating with them. Big breakthrough came a few years ago with the Northumbrians, and if you look here, these are the provinces that I've inherited: Lothian, Elmet, Pexeton, Deer, and Lindisi. All of these belonged to the Northumbrian faction. I had nothing to do with them previously. We were not allies, although they kept begging me. They kept offering me daughters and begging me for alliance, but I refused them every time because I was at the time allied with the Vikings. I allied with the Vikings immediately, and because I never do that, I always like to make it a little harder on myself, I guess, by refusing alliance with the Vikings. This time I did it, and I'm glad that I did for a few other reasons. Maybe we'll talk about that later. But this time when the Northumbrians came to me recently, just a couple of years ago, maybe 852, something like that, I said yes. The reason I accepted that time was because they offered me a daughter, and I knew that the Northumbrians had been being beaten up by the Vikings. They, I believe, had lost this to a rebellion. So I'm not even sure that they ever owned this, when I inherited it from them. But regardless, at one point, the Northumbrians did have this. They did have Cumbri, but I believe lost it to a rebellion. They had lost Béarnice to the Vikings, of course. And I believe they had lost Elmet too, or they were in the processes of it. I didn't know all that at the time, but I agreed to the marriage offer. Now, the marriage offer was with, let's see, it's not, okay, is it him? No, so this was not the guy. This guy is married to an Irish princess, and he was the heir at the time I made the offer, at the time I accepted the offer from the Northumbrians. He was the heir apparent, right? So his dad was king, and Prince Eoganan at the time was the heir apparent in red. He had Prince Kenneth and Fergus. I guess Fergus is not married. So the guy who did marry the Northumbrian princess is this guy, Prince Kenneth, who is currently the heir apparent. Now, I don't know if this matters, but let's just get all the information out there. The very same year that I assassinated the Northumbrian king and wiped out the faction, my king died. Not this guy, but his dad. What that did is it may have put Prince Kenneth with a Northumbrian wife directly in line. So now he is the heir apparent. And that may have made it so that I could inherit territory. And in fact, at the time, I had the king, dead king, we'll call him. At the time, I was attempting to eliminate the Northumbrians. So the Northumbrians offer me their princess. I say yes. Lose my alliance with the Vikings, by the way, because they're at war, so I'm a little concerned about that. And I'm training up assassins like mad, trying to get them ready to kill the Northumbrian king. At the time, the Northumbrian king had no heirs. And so I was a little not sure how this was going to play out, because I have many times assassinated a king of an allied faction who I've married into, and his heir takes over, and I don't end up inheriting, even if I kill that heir as well. So I thought, all right, I need to be careful here. And what I did was I got my assassins together, and then I noticed that before I even tried to kill the Northumbrian king, who was hanging out here in Pexeton, I noticed that another heir had appeared. So I changed my attention. All my assassins went to kill that heir. He was down here, I believe. So I killed that heir, got another assassin or two in line, and then moved them over to attack the king, who now, I was told on issuing that order, that he had no heirs. Now, even when the message says that, it's not always true, because there may not be an heir of the king at the time you're issuing the order of assassination, but if during the AI's turn one of his sons or cousins or nephews or whatever matures, then he will be the new king if you assassinate successfully the prior king. So there's still a risk that a new king was going to take over, but I issued the assassination. And on that same turn, on the AI's turn, I got the message that my king had died of old age. He was 61 years old, I believe. And so he died of old age. King Eoganan, his son, took over. Eoganan's uncle, actually. Or actually, maybe this is his brother. Yeah, that's probably his brother. Prince Kenneth and Fergus. These must all be his younger brothers. Takes over as the heir apparent. He's got a Northumbrian wife. And I think that's why I inherited. Now, I am very surprised by this outcome, because I thought, and I could be wrong here, that you get some of their lands, potentially. That's what the message says. You may inherit some of their lands. Let's see if I can find a princess on the map. And maybe, if there is one, I can send an emissary to request marriage. We've got a princess of the Picts. Let's go try that. Yeah, okay, so if her faction is eliminated, you may gain some claim to their lands. So the thing I'm not sure about is, what does that mean, some claim? Is there a chance that I get a partial inheritance? And if so, what are the factors that determine that? Why was I so successful here in getting 6 provinces? That's their entire holdings. Unless they had Northumbria, but I don't believe they did, or Sir Cumbri, rather. I believe that they had lost that to a rebellion, and so I got all of their 6 provinces. It could be that the reason was Northumbria was not in any other marriage alliances at the time, or any other alliances, period, so maybe that's the issue. Maybe that's the defining factor. I have no way of knowing the nature of the alliances that the AI makes. I guess you can kind of keep an eye on princesses. If you have like an agent in every province and you are meticulous about it, then you can determine like if another agent is on a mission. So if this princess was doing something, was going to get married or offer marriage to another faction, it would say that here. It doesn't, so I know she's pretty much going to sit there. But that would still be very difficult to track, and I think it would not be possible, because if on the Pict's turn they decided to send her to, let's say, the Irish king, who is just one move away, connected by a port there, then I don't think I would get any message about that. She would just move, and if I didn't happen to see it, right, then I would just not know. So it would be very difficult to track the nature of the alliances the AI has. The Northumbrians were, let's see, they were allied with me, of course. They were at war with the Vikings. And I'm afraid I can't remember if they had any other alliances at the time, but we can do a quick reload here to a previous year and see what the diplomatic situation was at least a few turns before this all happened. So the questions in my mind one, does the nature of the heir matter when inheriting? So, for example, in my Spanish campaign, I've been getting some advice from, I believe, Con of Step was the comment, and I think it's on episode 3, maybe 4, where he made some suggestions about casting a wider net. I was being very restrictive with my marriage alliance acceptances. And the reasoning was, I sort of had it in my mind that the heir apparent, the guy in red here, is different than these other princes who are just in black. So this is the heir, and these guys are the spares, right? So if Prince Donald, Prince Constantine come of age, they're going to be just black as well. But Prince Kenneth is the guy who's going to inherit. So in my mind, I'm sort of assuming that this matters. That if, for example, one of these other guys, like Prince Fergus, let's say he had married the Northumbrian princess, I may not have inherited, right? But because it was Kenneth, who is now, by luck, the heir apparent, because his dad happened to die at the same turn that I assassinated the Northumbrian faction. Is that truly why I've inherited, or would I have inherited anyway, even if the Northumbrian princess married one of my spares? Does that make sense? So does it matter if it's the heir apparent or one of the spares? So that's a question in my mind. This, to me, I kind of think this is what you want to go for. Make sure that you are, if possible, that you can eliminate the king at a time when the marriage is to your direct heir and not one of the spares. Now, that was in the back of my mind, again, while I was attempting these assassinations, because the time that I issued all of these orders, my Northumbria, my Scottish king, this guy's dad, was still alive and king. And so sort of an inkling in my mind was telling me maybe I should wait for their dad to die, right? Because at the time I ordered the assassination, Prince Kenneth was in fact a spare. He was not the heir apparent. That was King Yoganan, who was married to an Irish princess, right? So anyway, I think you want to try to arrange your marriages so that it's the direct heir who is marrying the faction you want to inherit from, and then you kill them. That's question 1. Does the kind of prince matter? Question 2. Does the kind of princess matter? In other words, although we can't see it in the game, does the relationship between the princess and her father or her king make a difference in whether you inherit or not? And this I have no way of knowing. I was given the name. When a faction approaches you with a princess and an offer for marriage, you will see nothing other than her name. You will not see, in fact, I don't even know if you see her name. You probably do, but you definitely don't know her age. And it definitely doesn't show you anything like her relationship to the current king of her faction. So, and you can't even figure that out very easily within your own faction, because here's my Princess Fennels, who's 23, and, you know, what is her relationship? I guess I would say that she is the sister of King Yoganan, who is 31. That would make sense. But it could be that she was a late-born princess from, like, the previous generation, and so she's a cousin or something else, right? So it is difficult to tell. But theoretically, that may matter. And the way that may matter is, let's say that, let's look at the Irish here, because I've been trying to go after the Irish. You can tell this guy's got the hard-to-kill trait because I've been trying to assassinate him so much. He currently has one heir here, but he didn't a little while ago. He was a very young, I think he was 19 years old, and there were no heirs around. And so I had been trying to kill him because I had married into the family. And in fact, Yoganan was the last time I married an Irish princess. And this was after I had killed his dad here, King Flan's father. And so I had married into the Irish family. I had killed King Flan's father, but did not inherit because Flan came of age in just the right time, right? So I didn't inherit anything because the faction was not eliminated. And so I knew, okay, I've done this before. You can see it in my Spanish campaign where I've married into the French family, and I assassinated the French king, and his heir took over. And so I assassinated the heir, and then the faction was eliminated, and I got nothing. And one theory about why that is the case is that A, it could have been married to the wrong kind of heir of mine, right? Like maybe in that case, the French princess was not married to the heir apparent, but one of the spares or something, or whatever. The other problem, though, could be that it is due to the princess. That the princess's relationship needs to be something like she's the daughter of the king. And if you kill her dad, but the faction stays on, and then her brother takes over, and then you kill her brother and eliminate the faction, you get nothing. Because she's not in line to inherit, so to speak, from her brother. Does that make sense? That's one sort of thought process here. So I attempted to marry to the family again. I was successful. We were still allied with the Irish, but they still had this new king, and so I married, I don't know, his sister or something to King Yoganan and tried assassinating him, but it wasn't working. He's got a couple of border fort provinces here, and he was just getting traits that were making him difficult to assassinate, and I was running low on assassins, so I switched focus to the Northumbrians, and that led to this. Now, to show that this is like, I'm not just making this up, I mean, I guess this could be bribery, right? Like, I could be just making this up to you, but look at these units, okay? So Woodsman here, this is a Northumbrian-specific unit. This is obviously a Northumbrian-specific unit, Saxon Huscarls, the unit names, Waldorf Goodwin. So this is great, actually, right? Royal Bodyguards, I get those too. Whoops, no, we're not going to do that. Are the rebels neutral? That's interesting. But anyway, what else? We got Fearedmen here. Again, that's a unit that I can't train. And more Saxon Huscarls, more Woodsmen. And then down here, all this is stuff that I could train theoretically. But the fact is, yeah, I didn't get this through bribery. I think that should be fairly obvious. I've only got one agent running around. And again, this could be some elaborate con, I suppose. But trust me, bro. This is for real. I inherited this territory. I'm very pumped about it. And I think this is awesome. Now, also on this turn, I got a couple of things to be aware of. One, you do get a marriage, an announcement rather, a message when you inherit land. The message was part and parcel of the assassination success message on the king. So when I killed the Northumbrian king, you get the typical photo or the image of the king slumped over at his table, right, with the maid just sort of gasping and holding her hands to her mouth in horror. And it says, you've cut off the head of the serpent, and now you must feign horror at the horror of this ghastly deed or whatever. And it also said that as he had no heirs, the faction is eliminated, but because you have married into the faction, you can claim, lay claim to I can't remember if it said some of his lands, but there was a message there as part of that assassination success screen. If you inherit land successfully, you do get a message, which is really cool. That was something I was wondering. And it said, again, something like, you have inherited some land through a claim through marriage. So it was just one sentence as part of that assassination mission. So that was one thing. The other thing is, I got a civil war warning because the loyalty here is so bad. So while it is easier to make this happen, I think, in Viking Invasion, because it's just a bit faster to get to your assassins, you're going to have a hard time keeping them, maybe, because influence is very hard to come by in this game. And I think that's sort of a separate discussion we can have, but really briefly, influence is best gotten on Glorious Achievements mode, which you can only get on the main full campaign. And that's especially if you're playing a Catholic faction and you're doing a little crusading, but you're holding on to your homelands. Even if you don't advance very much, your influence will tend to increase. And even there's a bug where it will wrap around once it reaches 10, and your king will have an influence of like 1 for a couple of turns, and then it'll build up gradually again. But that is something you can observe if you play Glorious Achievements, and I'm sure that they did that because if you play Glorious Achievements as intended, right, you're not conquering the whole map, and typically Conquest is the easiest way for you to get influence boosts. Now, I've been playing very slow on Viking invasion. In fact, for a very long time, these were the only 4 provinces I had. I grabbed Reget through conquest. This rebelled. It was a relatively small rebel force. The Vikings had taken it, and then a small rebel force kicked him out, and so I attacked and took it for myself. Brega, same thing. Rebels were here. I moved in and took it over. But that was the only conquering I did, and my king is 3 influence. Pathetic. So I've got a bunch of disloyal generals now who have all declared for me. Very different from, the people who are running my kingdom, but actually not too different from some of these other guys. Prince Kenneth has got no loyalty. This is terrible. Yeah, we've got very low loyalty. We got problems here, but this is the campaign. So I'm just so pumped. So again, to sum up how this works, seems to be you don't want your so when you get a marriage offer from another faction, that king needs to die and his heir cannot take over, I think. So what you need to do is eliminate any heirs first, and that's easier to do. It's much easier percentage-wise to assassinate a prince than it is to assassinate a king. So that's what I did here, killed his heir, and then you have to hope against hope that another heir doesn't mature while you're assassinating the actual king. But that king who made the marriage offer to you of his daughter, that king is the one who needs to die without any heirs. And so you need to make sure first that there are no heirs, and then that he dies again with no heirs, and that you're allied still. And then there may be another dice roll, but I don't know. Like, I got all of these provinces, so what that suggests to me, I guess, is that if there's a dice roll, it's for the entire, the whole shebang, unless there's another alliance in play. Let's load up the, I guess the autosave. We'll see if the autosave has something here. So load game, the last autosave. So that's from today at 11:06. And the Scots other save was from 11:11. All right, so that's, just I want to make sure, June 10th, 11:06. 10th, 11:11. All right, so let's load up. No, that's the one I just did. So, okay, let me go back. Yeah, resume game. What is it? Is it 8:56? I don't want to just load. Yeah, okay. So, I think I should go to the autosave then. Because the last hard save is, of course, because I made a save as soon as this happened, and went to go with you. The reason, by the way, that I did not hit record, like tab out of the game and hit record when that message was still up, of the message about you've succeeded assassinating the king and you've inherited the land, was because I was terrified that the game would crash, because this has been a little unstable lately. But anyway, so let's go back to that autosave. 11:06. What was the previous save? That was 10:40, so we could take a look at that if this one doesn't give us anything new. But this one might actually be just the turn before, because it's 5 minutes later that I made the save. So, okay, perfect. So, interestingly, this is a guy, okay, he's got royal blood. And these guys, let's see. Okay, I think I've killed the king, or I've killed his heir. And so this is King Alpin. Maybe not, though, because it was 3 years later. I don't have any assassinations queued up. Let's just see. His heir will take over. So where's his heir? Oh, his heir is here. Okay, so that sucks. Sometimes an heir will appear, and if he's within the stack, you're screwed. So in this situation, I can't remember how this worked out. Probably he moved his heir away over here, because I think he was in Deer, actually. Because I remember having... Let's play this out. And I'm queuing up assassins here, right? And so Lothian... Okay, this was owned by them. I guess they took it back, or it rejoined them. And this is owned by them, but we've got a rebellion happening in Elmet, which I believe they retreated from. So this is going to play out a little differently, but let's just take a look at the family here so you know what's going on. This is Prince Eoganan, who again is married to an Irish princess, and this is Kenneth, who is going to be the heir apparent, you know, later on in the timeline here, and he's married to the Northumbrian princess. My other princes, Fergus is not married. So Kenneth is the one who's married to the Northumbrian princess. So this could play out differently because when you reload a save, things may happen in a different way, and like my king might not die or something. So it may all be very different. But let's sit and just see what occurs. And it'd be cool if I could recreate it here. All right, so Elmet, they're moving away. That's what happened last time. I don't remember getting that message, and that's new. All right, I've got another son. Great. And the prince has moved away. Okay, so, and just like last time, he moved to Dare. Okay, so we'll go down, and that's just like I remember, a 66% chance to kill him. And we're just going to send everybody down, even though it's a little overkill. If I lose all of these assassins, or even like enough of them, that may be a problem too, because that's really important, obviously, that we get enough of them to come back and kill the king. So now Alpin is 60. I guess we could check diplomacy. That was the other thing. So actually the Northumbrians are allied to a lot of factions, it turns out. But I was the only one that inherited from them, and so they're allied to literally everybody else. The Welsh have been eliminated by me. I was trying to inherit their territory, and it didn't work out. Got a marriage, but again, I think I went through too many kings. You know, like I had gotten a marriage alliance. I managed to kill that king who was king at the time of the marriage alliance, but his heir took over, right? And then another heir took over. So for whatever reason, that didn't work. But the Northumbrians have tons of allies. Okay, we got him. Okay, only one assassin's killed. I missed that message, but let's now see. Okay, and they ended up back here. And my king is now 61. So let's try it. Again, Kenneth, the guy married to the Northumbrian princess, is not directly in line for the throne. So that this may change things, right? 34, 34, 34. I think this is so far exactly the way it worked out. Are you an assassin? Yes. All right, we'll send you 2. And you've got another one in Dalriada. Okay, we can't actually get you down here, but we'll move to Berenice. You know, I guess. It doesn't matter too much. If this doesn't work, I'm not going to go through another cycle of it. But very nervous. Yes, I remember this too. So he got this trait, which is good because the other trait you can build up is resilient, which gives you extra bonuses against assassins. And that's what the Irish king had. This is very, very nervous. I don't know if this makes him easier to assassinate or if it makes him just simply harder to kill on the battlefield. -5 health, that's definitely a battlefield thing, but it may also be an assassin thing. If I had to guess, I would say this has no effect on assassins, though. -5 health, I know that's related to like your hit points, basically. And in this game, if you're unaware, I think every man has like 1 health, typically. And so getting extra health is like getting extra lives. That's how I believe it works, if I remember, you know, from the strategy guide and the manual and things like that. So this is really bad. -5 health is like getting just a ton of loss of HP. +1 acumen is kind of nice, but okay, everyone's queued up, ready to go. The Dalriada guy, I'm not going to send him on this mission because he can't get there directly. So he would take maybe some stupid route, probably go through Deer. So let's just see. And if my king doesn't die, that'll be interesting to see if I inherit or not. All right, so that failed. All right, succeeded, but we didn't inherit. Yeah, so his heir took over. All right. Interesting. And my king is 62 now. So because he happened to die in the previous episode, that worked out. All right, now I'm pretty sure I know how this is going to go, but let's, for the sake of argument, do it. He has no heir. We've got a lot of chances of killing him. A very high chance of killing him. And so I assume that I'm not going to inherit now. Because this is a different king. And Kenneth is also not in line. So is that all my assassins? Yes, it is. Okay, he's going up to Bjornis, so that might make it a little tougher. All right, fail. Fail. Nope. And we just didn't get him. All right, they're both still on the job. And again, I just think this is not going to work. We're now overwriting the autosave, though, I believe, which kind of sucks. I should have made a hard save after that autosave, but it would get... Alright, fail, fail, fail. Alright. Alright, so anyway, what I'm kind of curious about, I don't know if we actually get an autosave because I don't think it happens every year. It happens every, like, few years. But as you can see, like, my king is now 64. So we would have had to wait for quite some time, and things may have changed drastically anyway. So it's kind of an interesting illustration of just how hard it is to line things up just right. Is he... Okay, he actually... This is a new king, of course. He doesn't have the same traits. But now we no longer have really any assassins that can deal with him. I'm just curious about that autosave. If it's from the same time period, or if it's from the same time, I'll go back and... No, this is from a couple minutes ago. All right, shoot. Well, anyway, I think that's enough sort of to go on, right? What I could do if I really wanted to, maybe, is go back to this time frame and try to make it happen, but it would mean playing for another 20 minutes, which is quite a few turns because I didn't fight any battles at all. And that would be kind of a problem. I'm just going to load this up because we can get off of the menu here, because that music is a little annoying. But yeah, so anything else to think about here? Well, actually, you know, I did make up a brief illustration of what I mean. Let me just find it here. All right, so I made a little bit of a graphic here to kind of illustrate what I was talking about earlier. Maybe this will make a little more sense. So a few factors to think about with regard to inheritance. We've got us, our faction, and then we've got the target faction here. The first question mark to me is, does it matter who the princess marries when she is being offered as part of an alliance or when you ask her? That's another factor, by the way. In this circumstance with the Scots, I inherited after the Northumbrian king sent his daughter. So it was initiated by the target faction. I don't know if it will still work if it's initiated by you, if you send your emissary to request that the princess marry into your family. It should. That's what the text indicates when you make the offer in-game, but you never know. So all I know for now is what works is the princess requests to marry you. Now there's three types of people the princess can marry. As we saw, there's the king, there's the heir apparent, and then there's one of the spares. So the heir is the guy in red. This is the guy who will take over when his father dies or when the other king dies. And then the spares are the guys whose names are written in black. What happened here was the princess was offered to a spare, but when the faction was eliminated, my king had taken over and the spare became the heir. So that's one factor. Does that matter? Now, we tried to redo it and were unable to succeed because we didn't eliminate the faction. A new heir happened to come of age at that exact turn, which is weird. I don't know why that happened on the replay, but not when I did it earlier. You would think if there was a son who was of exactly the right age, he would have come of age in both of those scenarios, right? We killed the son in exactly the same amount of time when I tried it in front of you as happened before. It only took me that one turn. And then I turned and killed the king. And that... Let's see. Did I fail a bunch of times? Or did I succeed that first time? Well, I guess I'll have to go back and watch the video on that. But I think you want it to marry one of these two guys, or not that she has to marry one of these two guys, but that when the current king dies and the faction is eliminated, she should be married to one of these two. I'm guessing it would work if she married the king. And I know it works if she marries the person who is the heir apparent. And what I don't know is if it would still work if she's married to one of the spares at the time the faction is eliminated. So that's one factor. The other factor is, or factor number 2 rather, is the princess relationship to her royal family, right? So is it that she has to be the daughter of the king? Can she be a sister of the king? Can she be like a cousin or some other, like a niece or something? Because all of these things could kind of play in potentially to how the inheritance works. My suspicion, like, not that I wouldn't put it past the developers to say, yeah, it has to be the daughter, but I bet it's not. I think the only important thing is the nature of the king who dies when the faction is eliminated. And that, like, because we very well may have married the sister of that king, right, rather than the daughter. I don't know. But I think that king is the one who has to die when you eliminate the faction. It has to be the same king in the same turn, or in whose reign the marriage offer was made. That's my guess, right? Because it says there's a claim regardless of what type of princess it is. Again, the game could just be gliding over some details there, and certainly CA could release, a buggy game or a game that didn't work exactly as advertised. We all know that can happen. But there's just nothing to indicate it in the manual, in the strategy guide, not that has anything useful to say about inheritance, or in the text in-game. You would think that if they had this elaborate mechanic that said, okay, the princess has to be the daughter of the king. If it's a sister, too bad. You'd think that if that was the case, there would be some way to kind of track it. There is a way to track the heirs, and that's why I think that's kind of important. But maybe simply more important is the fact that when the king offers to marry into your family, right? Like when the AI offers a princess to you, you do get this very dramatic message. I await your reply with trepidation, right? In these dangerous times in which we live, a solid alliance may make the difference between life and death. And so he offers you the hand of his daughter as a gesture of goodwill. He says daughter regardless of whether it's his sister, right? And so again, that's kind of why I think it doesn't really matter. This is all just not sufficient evidence, but I suspect that what really matters is that guy has to die and eliminate the faction through his death. It can't be that you kill him and then a son takes over, because then the deal is off, right? He's making you a deal, part of which involves potentially inheriting land. If he dies and his son takes over, or a brother takes over, or a cousin takes over, then a deal that, that family member made with some other girl who you're not maybe even directly related to wouldn't hold, right? So I think it's really more about the king than it is about the princess. But we also can't, I don't know if you're ready for this. I don't know. Do we need to get into this? Federal Reserve, fiat currency, the gold standard, how this may play a role in the inheritance mechanics of Medieval Total War, released in 2002. Okay, maybe you're not ready for that. We'll focus on these. I think this is what's really important. Their king, when you're trying to get an inheritance, has to be the one who dies and therefore eliminates the faction. And that, by the way, is probably why it's so hard to swing, because very frequently, very frequently, an heir will pop up out of nowhere. Now, one time where I was trying to assassinate the Irish, and there were no heirs on the map, and in fact, the heir who took over was, I believe, not 16. It's like, in other words, the heir who took over when I thought I was going to eliminate the Irish was not a just come-of-age newbie. It was actually, I think, someone who was not a prince, but he did have royal blood. The Irish had some, like, cousins or something, or once removed, who were still considered to be of royal blood, but were not heirs. They did not have the prince icon, but they did have the crown icon on their portraits, like on the right side of their portraits. So when I eliminated the Irish king, it said he has no heirs. But when you eliminate a faction, and there are some people with royal blood, I think that they can inherit. I think that there can be like a civil war or something. So that may have been part of why I didn't inherit in that case. Anyway, we did it, right? We did it. We took over Northumbria completely. We inherited it, and I think that should give us a nice big boost to our influence also. It would be great if that happened, right? But anyway, I am so pumped about this. I hope that this will help give us some data about how to make this happen. The most difficult thing of all is making sure that a king who you're trying to inherit from doesn't have heirs stacked underneath him. If that is the case, you are screwed, because once you kill him, the deal is off. Now, maybe a thing you could do then is you kill him and then you make another marriage alliance with any princesses from that faction. Not another marriage alliance, but you try to marry the princess to someone, right, within your family. And maybe that would do it, right? Maybe that would have worked. Something to keep in mind. So anyway, I think I've said more than enough here. Hopefully, I don't know, this proves something to me anyway, that it's possible to inherit land in this game. It's not just a fluke. It is very cool when it happens. You do get a little message, but I think it does have to be just right in terms of your, maybe the heir apparent needs to be the one who takes over, or who is in line when the faction dies. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Have a good one. This all but guarantees, by the way, that this is not going to happen in my Spanish campaign, but maybe with this data, I can kind of force it to happen. Have a good day. Thanks for joining me. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll see you in the next one.